Hello everyone, welcome to a video of my unbridled thoughts because I think I got it. I think I've cracked the code. I think I know how long the smoke war was. Stay with me. By the by, doing this in post, forgot to say, spoiler warning, oh my god. If you haven't played up to Twining Threads in Limbus Company, pretty much don't watch this video. So for the longest time, it's been a constant source of debate of how long the smoke war even was. And frankly, with Project Moon's refusal to give exact dates for things, for the most part for Limbus, I don't fault you. Oh my god, they are vague with this stuff. But I think enough details exist that we could discern an actual point of length. Also, pardon my low energy or struggle to speak at points. I'm moving at the end of the week. I've been in distress about moving, if you haven't been following my community notes. So, yeah, I'm currently in a packed-up house. So yeah, I'm a little upside down, and I just thought, what better a video of me in my unhinged self just coming up with a timeline or an idea of how long the smoke war was. Oh god. So let's get on to the first section. This is objective information. This is information that we know for certain is textual. This is observed, known things that we don't have to make much of a stretch on to make work. These are things we know for certain. First up, we have a good idea of when the laboratory raid was. Given the Kong family massacre and the lab raid were on the same day, knowing what point in time that took place would be important for starting out the entire timeline, as that's the inciting incident of everything. And thankfully, Kanto 8 gives us an answer for this. Thankfully, Hung Lao actually states that he was about 10 years old when this event happened, and going off of Dayu's account of her age, we can determine she's only a bit younger than him, almost 30 years old, and thus, we have an idea of what's up. We know from LobCorp that the laboratory raid and the Kong massacre were on the same day because, well, she was called off to go do that right after doing that. So, whoa, we have an objective idea. We have a timestamp, kinda. And that takes us to our next major data point. How long LobCorp existed for? 10 years. 10 years. We have a full figure from Library of Arena that LobCorp has existed in the outside world for 10 years, a little over 10 years. These two data points interact in a way to give the impression that it's been a little around 20 years from that point in time, because it would be impossible for Hung Lao to be in his early 30s if it was any shorter than 20 years. Our next data point is participants of the smoke war that we know of. The following being Moses, Ezra, Han Hee-jun, Salvador, Roland, Gregor, Otis, and Valencina. I'm pretty much going to have to put the Limbus ones to the side for a moment and go off of Ruina ages, because we don't know the exact time period between Ruina's end and Limbus's start. Like I've like estimated it can't be more than 4 years. It can't be more than 4 years. But, you know, Ruina and Distortion Detective take place within the same year, so I'm just gonna go off of the ages from that point. So, Roland was 33, Moses was 49, Ezra was 28, Han Hee-jun was 37, and Salvador was 54. Roland himself was a younger fixer when he entered the war, but, as we can see with his flashback, with his activity in the smoke war, he actually gets to see old L-Corp Singularity, which would be very odd if this was at all in an earlier part or even a middling part of the war. This sounds like something that would be happening toward the end. Like, Corps are pretty guarded with their secrets and how their stuff works. So the fact that this is happening at all doesn't make sense unless we're toward the end of the war. So I've been under the impression that Roland just joined in, like, closer to the end of the war because of his age and all of that. You can't become a fixer until you're about 20 years old, and he is very clearly depicted as being a fixer in the war, and there's no implication that he fought in the war prior to this at all, under anybody. So yeah, he was a fixer. He was a young fixer. He was probably like 20. He was probably like in his really early 20s and participated. We also know for semi-certain that Gregor is 35. It was in an old background, I think, for Limbus companies, like the PDA background, I believe. Like, we could see his uncensored profile, is what I mean. Like, his profile was the one in the background, it was the only one uncensored. It was very strange. So even if that might not be certain as to whether it's canon or not, we do know that he was 15 when his experimentation training was wrapping up, because it was his 15th birthday when he finally pierced the apple. Speaking of Gregor, he also confirms that children were sent out to do stuff on the behalf of a corp during the war, so it's like the excuse of, oh, children wouldn't be sent to war, that wouldn't be a thing that happened. That's not true. Children absolutely were just sent to war. Like, you'd think the city is a far-off, like, abhorrent place, but this isn't odd to real life. Like, children have been sent to war or to do work in war or do stuff in war. That's not odd. Childhood as an idea only very recently reawoken in society. Reawoke in society, damn it. So that's it for the more objective and direct pieces of information. We're going to be going on to the more filling the blank kind of points. It's information that's present, but it's more to string together to create a conclusion than to, like, be direct absolute proof. Like, I acknowledge I'm in speculation territory here. I am stringing together information, but I swear this stuff matters. This stuff matters a lot, even if it's minor. Our next few data points are going to be found in Distortion Detective Chapter 37, Noise, which is a really good chapter, by the way. Oh my god, please read Distortion Detective. Please read Distortion Detective. It's so good. I don't care if it's not finished. It's so good for what's out there. Please read. While it's a little difficult to tell how old Moses is, other than, well, she's, like, nebulously young, obviously, Ezra has more indications. So basically, the flashback starts seemingly a little bit before the Smoke War starts kicking off. I'll go over why I think this in a minute, stay with me. So the part in question I want to focus on is seemingly when Ezra and Moses first met, which was basically when Ezra was recruited into the Ujat as its most latest member. While it's not unusual for a grown adult to be looking at any kind of, like, young kid or teenager and calling them and thinking them as children, I mean, Moses herself even thinks of Faye, a confirmed high schooler, as a child. There is one additional line that does clear things up. In a later line in the same chapter, Ezra is stated to have a towering physique for her age. This would be a completely baffling thing to say about a teenager, or someone nearing their teens. Girls hit puberty much earlier than boys. Like, around the ages of 8 to 10, like, they start hitting it. My point is more or less, these chapter segments are very overfixated on Ezra's age, and Ezra's, like, disproportion to her age and her physical appearance. And it just makes me feel like Ezra is like a young kid, especially since the same chapter actually started out describing the origin and nature of Moses and Diaz's relationship. Like, Diaz picked her up when she was a kid, and, well, Diaz is a terrible person to her, but I think there's supposed to be a parallel here. I think there's supposed to be a parallel of Diaz and Moses, and then Moses and Ezra, and I think thematically, it works well if Ezra is, like, this young kid, this young little kid that is picked up by her mentor, and especially it makes sense with her age. I more or less imagine Ezra and Hong Lao to be about the same age, pretty much, in the present day. So our next point of data is kind of a two-in-one. It is the scene from Twining Threads. So not only is Ryoshu either, like, a tween or a really young teenager in this flashback, Moses states that the Smoke War took years. Like, her because like she is quoted as saying, must have been her years in the smoke war, referring to Valentina, of course. Given there's really no in-between sprite of Ryoshu being a little itty-bitty baby and this, and like this seems to have been her outfit for this point of her life, like this stretch of time between that and her being an older teenager, so it's a bit indiscernible to tell how old she was, but I would assume that she was like, she can't be older than like 13, 14 here, I would think. Given her intonation, I would lean younger, like maybe 11, 12 years old. So, thought experiment now. Thought experiment with ages. So, okay. If Ryoshu is almost 28 in the present day, and it's been less than 4 years since the end of Ruina, that would mean Roland is like 35, 36 from the beginning of Limbus. Like the beginning of Limbus, which, if we are gonna roll back all the way there, then Ryoshu would have been like 26. So taking like the higher end of that graph, then rolling back 3 years, you would have been 23. So like, I guess Roland might be like about 10 years older than her. I guess that makes sense. So like rolling back like about 10 years from this point, she would be the age I'm imagining, actually, like for when like Roland was active in the war. And also, if that would actually make a lot of sense. That would make a lot of sense if Valentina's, if this flashback took place closer to the end of the war, because like this is the same flashback. This is right after she kills the fly. This is right after. Like she even says, "Oh shit, I almost died out there. Oh no." So yeah, no, like I think this part, I think Ryoshu being this old at this part of the war makes sense. If she's this age closer to the end of the war, and like most of the war would have taken place in her childhood. Anyway, moving on, my last major data point from this section is the fact that Mio met Callie when she was a kid, and Callie was definitely the Red Mist at this point. Her story even indicates that she had the blade, she had mimicry and everything. So yeah, she was the Red Mist at this point. She was the Red Mist. She had already, hit up with Carmen and everything. Why do I say this? Well, it's the fact that Mio is 29 years old. She is 29 and she was a child when Callie was still alive. Meaning she is outside this 20-ish year like bracket of time that the smoke war would have occurred within. Like she predates it. And like, I just like having retroactive like evidence for just like to additionally solidify the time span that this had to have occurred within. So anyway, moving on. I had actually realized something while I was recording this, and it's the fact that Gregor was meant to be G-Corp's decisive weapon. That's a weird thing to make if you are not in war or expecting a war, you know? So if Gregor was 15 and he was developed as the Wing's decisive weapon, and he is like the poster boy of the war, he's one of the technically three, but really four, but the Roach, not the Roach Hopper, the Lord of the Flies and the Maggot Prince are like a 2-in-1 deal. Very strange. But yeah, no, I just think that's further reinforcement that either the war was going on at that point or the war was about to start when he was 15, when he became 15. Like, I thought the detail was suspect before, but I really think that it matters now. Like, with the new context we've gotten from Kanto 9, I think it really does matter for determining timeline stuff. Anyway, I can't be certain all my bases were checked before I come to this conclusion, but there was a single line I found that could pose as conflicting information, and that's Gebra's line back in one of her episodes, because like she says 10 years have passed in the outside world since I disappeared, I heard. And while this does seem odd because she should have died 20 years ago and not 10 years ago, but stay with me guys, stay with me, tinfoil hats, here we go. I think what could explain this is that The smoke war happened not long after the laboratory raid, because Ian and Benjamin got their plan together to establish a new wing. And like, why would they wait? Why would they wait years and years and years to get this going? Like, everyone already didn't like Old L very much, but like they were just waiting for a shove to come on in. And well, Benjamin basically made that shove. He made that shove by cooperating with Diaz to make it happen. So like, why would they wait? Why would they wait years? And I think because of the smoke war, they just didn't realize they didn't realize the red mist was just fucking gone. Like, probably people were like wondering, but I'm imagining maybe it takes some time to like lose your fixer title if you've been absent, maybe. Cause like, I don't know, like I would imagine it's possible to just disappear off the face of the earth for a while and like you just show up again, you're like, oh hey, oh there you are again. And I think 10 years is enough time to be considered like, you know, relieved of your title. And like, as we know from LobCorp, Mio knows she's there and she's in a robot box body and like, you know, she effectively should have lost her title at this point. Like, she has no ability to really get out there and like continue red misting all over the place in her box body specifically. Like, even in Ruina she's stated to be weaker, but like, you know, probably not as weak as when she was in a robot body. Like, she was just straight up she was a box. She was a box. Like, what was she doing? Was she doing in the outskirts or like in the back streets, like picking a fight with some rats? Just someone just like punctures part of her body and like that's it. Anyway, the most reasonable time span that I can think of with all of this information laid out before all of us, because it needs to predate LobCorp's 10-year lifespan, been long enough to have gone on for years, long enough for Roland to be old enough to join in toward the end of it, and also, like, as I said, the Ryoshu flashback to make any sense. Gregor to be there for the earlier stages of it, because his memory of it, he had memories of it from as early as 70 days into the war, I believe. It was about 70 days. And also Otis too, because like Otis could also recognize that. And I really think it's about 10 years long. It was about a 10-year long war, and that's really not odd for the city. Like, dear viewer, you need to understand, a short war is not a profitable war. And in the city, profits are freaking everything. Of course they would drag a war out for around a decade. Like, we have real-life wars that end up getting dragged out because of war profiteering. Why would they want a short war when you basically have an economy based off of that? And, like, the Smoke War is never treated as like a flash in the pan. It's treated as a pretty long, grueling thing. Like, a whole event that, like, changed so many people's lives and, like, reshaped how the city, like, went about things. It comes across as a pretty major and lasting event, especially with the Trojan War illusions like going on, because like the Trojan War lasted for 10 years also. Otis's Kanto is coming up. She's going to have a lot to do with the war. Oh god, I'm so scared for Otis's Kanto, guys. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too disorganized or too hard to follow. I was trying my best to get all my thoughts out in an organized manner. Moving is a bit chaotic, things are a bit chaotic. I will do my best to have a less scuffed schedule once my move is over. Thank you for watching, everybody.